Hey everyone, I'm excited to bring you another great episode with Jessica Davis, owner of Jessica Davis Design, Interior Design. We explore her amazing journey to becoming a female entrepreneur, the importance of communication, nature versus nurture, as well working one-on-one with her clients to create amazing designs and so much more. I'm really excited to bring you this truly engaging episode. Here's Jessica Davis. All right, Jess, welcome to the podcast. Super excited to have you here.
Thank you.
It's I've known you for quite a long time, but
oh my gosh,
I know it's been a minute, right? And but what's good about this is that I don't know your story before you became an entrepreneur and business owner. And I was thinking about that yesterday, and I'm like, I don't think I remember, what she did, how she evolved into this, kick-ass female entrepreneur that we see today. And I would love to go back there and just kind of like explore how you got started. I think the listeners are going to really appreciate, kind of understanding, how you evolve from not being an entrepreneur. Did you have that entrepreneurial spirit always? Has it always been in you? That's not always the case, right?
It's true. But yes, with that question, I definitely have always had that entrepreneur spirit. So nice. I can honestly say I've had one 9-to-5 job in my entire life.
Really?
And, yes. And that was...
See, I didn't know that.
So that was,
awesome.
Oh my gosh, back in Banff, Alberta.
Really?
And yes, I worked in a grocery store, 9-to-5. And before that, and after that, I'd waitressed and bartended, which in itself is its own little mini business that you're doing.
True.
You can manipulate how much you make.
Yeah.
Just based on it's sales, like you're selling yourself.
Yeah.
You're, if you were on fire, you'd make this much in tips. If you're kind of not having a great day, you saw that. So I think that really taught me how, customer service and how you can just with your own self, how you can drive what you make in life.
I love that. I love that. So you had that entrepreneurial spirit, and working in that industry really just probably lit that fire a little bit more in terms of like being self-sufficient, having control of your how much you want to make, how much you want to work.
Yes.
Do you want to work your ass off that day, or do you want to take it easy? And that, I mean, essentially that really is what entrepreneurial life is about. It's like, okay, you can own your own business, but if you want to take a day off, you can always take a day off, but then, the work's not going to get done. It's kind of a double-edged sword, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like you have to be self-motivated. But I remember it was Keller Foods in Banff, Alberta.
Yeah.
And I was, 21. And I remember I'm working 9-to-5. And after my first week, I'm like, it doesn't matter what I do, how nice I am to these people. I'm going to make the same amount of money every day.
Right.
Work it and then not having the flexibility of hours. So I'm like, how am I going to get my banking done? How am I going to do things during the day? So weekends took on a whole new feel as well, because it was Monday to Friday, 9-to-5.
Yeah.
But so it was almost a claustrophobic feeling.
Right.
That I was like, oh my gosh.
So you felt, kind of caged in, and you just kind of needed to get out and explore, and kind of build, just kind of get loose to I guess build what you wanted to. Eventually, now has become an amazing brand, an amazing company. Take us through the evolution then, from going from Banff to working in a grocery store to starting your own business. Was it like an overnight thing? Like did you know what you wanted to do? Or
well, I didn't, which was why I was in Banff.
Yeah, as is the case.
Yes, I took. Yeah. I actually wanted to go into journalism. Actually, that was my first direction, and so I took my tuition money.
Yeah,
and I decided on a whim. It was in the summertime. Well, school is about to start.
Uh-huh.
I decided with two friends one night that, well, we all decided we were going to take our tuition money, get in Brent's car, and drive out west. So
really,
yeah. And
oh my God,
my parents cried for days.
I'm sure. Oh man.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, it just, so I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I traveled, I ended up traveling for 3 years, which I think was a really fabulous start to just having, just being open to many things and people and the world and getting out of the town I grew up in was at such a young age was, I just think, monumental in my life.
Yeah. Well, you do, I do, I do admire a lot about you is that you do travel a lot and I see that through your social media and what's really cool is that you travel, but you incorporate your passion of design and with your business. So it's kind of it integrates very well into, you've kind of, you've created this balance of like lifestyle and work and a professionalism, which I think is very admirable because I think a lot of us as entrepreneurs think, hey, I'm going to own my own business. It's going to release me to be able to travel and that sort of thing. Meanwhile, you're locked down to, really just working 20 hours a day or whatever it is, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And certainly that's not how it started with me traveling and,
sure.
I'm able to do it now because I have a really good base and people around me that allow me to do that. Yeah. But certainly, there were 10 years where, I didn't even know what was happening in the world. I was so focused and my head was down and just had my eye on the prize and wanted to build this business and didn't come up for air for a long time. But no. And I didn't even realize it at the time that I was doing it because I was so passionate about it. So it didn't feel, looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, it was a blur.
Yeah. That, I'm glad you brought that up because that's something that we talk about a lot, with our guests and what I talk about a lot with this kind of like entrepreneurial focus and exploration that I have is that like a lot of people have a passion, but can that be turned into a business that you can monetize, right? And it's like, did you have this passion for design and you thought, okay, I can turn this into a business? Or did you just kind of like, I'm good at this, I'm going to follow this passion and see where it takes me? Or did you have some sort of they say like a 5-year plan or whatever? Was it just like passion driven?
It happened. I never intended it to happen, to be honest, but yes, to answer your question, I have always loved design. When I was a teenager, I would use allowance to buy design magazines.
Really?
And I was always, you talk to my mom, I would be the living room. She'd come home from work and the living room would be all... and they were so amazing. They let me do it. I'd paint the walls, rearrange the furniture.
Wow.
And so I was always, I just loved it. And it was just something I loved. I didn't think too much about it, but I just loved doing it. I was very creative. So I would, just make drapes and
That's awesome.
Yeah. But so I never intended, and I don't know, being in London, Ontario, I never grew up. Designers were not a thing,
right? Yeah, so, I want to talk about that, but
it was just not. No one knew anyone who had a designer. No one hired a designer.
Right.
It was like New York City stuff, right? Yeah. And so, anyways, it's not something that I ever considered as a career,
right?
And so. As time went on, I actually I became a massage therapist. So went away, wasn't sure what I was going to do. Traveled for 3 years. Yeah. Came back home and knew I had to go back to school. Yeah. And I didn't want to be that 40-year-old traveler in a hostel. Although I could have because I love traveling that much. Right. But so came back, and a friend of mine said, I'm going into massage therapy. I'm like, that sounds exciting. Maybe I'll do that. Just no real plan again. And so I come back home. My parents are like, yes, she's going back to school. And I'm like, I'm going to be a massage therapist, which actually turned out to be a really great, the education was fantastic. And I ended up absolutely loving every bit of science involved in it, which I did love science. And with my dad, he was very much a scientist. And so I did very much love that, started a business. And then the entrepreneurial spirit, as I was going through school, I was working at a golf course. And they had built this room at the back of the golf course as a gaming room for men's night for cards, and had beautiful windows looking out onto the golf course. And where it was situated in the club was behind the two locker rooms. So there was a ladies' locker room, the men's locker room. And then there was this communal hallway and went up the stairs and then to this card room. And I remember going up there and thinking, oh my gosh, this would be a perfect massage therapy clinic. This would be amazing. Yeah. And then what happened, they went to start serving food there. And of course, they couldn't bring, with food and beverage regulations, you can't carry food and beverage through locker rooms.
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, this is my chance. This is it. So I did a business proposal.
Really?
And went to the owners. Yeah. And I knew I was graduating soon. So I presented it to them. And they were just like, yes, go for it. Because we've built this space and we can't do anything with it. So that was for massage therapy. That was for massage therapy.
However, that really is about you seeing space in a very unique way. Very true. Which really is kind of your superpower, right? Like you can walk into a space. I mean, we joked when you got here. I'm like, oh man, I'm so nervous for Jess to get here because she's going to analyze our little podcast studio. But I mean, really, you know, and that's kind of one of my questions or one of the things that I really wanted to ask you is that, like, is it a blessing and a curse that you have the superpower of like understanding space and seeing space in a different way that you probably just can't go anywhere without being like, oh my God, I need to change that, or that chair needs to be moved, or like, is that something that you have to almost turn off or experience on a daily basis?
Yeah. I mean, it certainly doesn't bother me, but I will notice, you know, I'll just kind of be sitting there rearranging things in my head.
Your head. Yeah.
But it doesn't bother me to the point where I'm like, good. Oh my gosh, like no judgment. Good. But I'm like, if I could get my hands on this.
Well, I mean, before we got this space, I was like, oh man, we're going to build a podcast space. I better talk to Jess. I'm like, no, I'm not fucking talking to her because like, A, you know, we don't have the budget, but B, I'm like, no, we just got to do this. And then, you know, maybe when we grow or get a bigger space, we'll get you involved. But yeah, definitely. Now, I'm curious more about kind of going down that direction of like, you know, how you work within your business as an interior designer, and you know how it's such a subjective thing, you know, and you'll have clients and they'll have an idea and then you come in with your idea, and how are you able to kind of find them you know, at kind of where they're at, and then almost persuade your ideas, you know, onto them. Like, how do you navigate through that? If that makes sense, what I'm asking.
Yeah. So my approach has always been, I'm not trying to paint the world Jessica Davis design.
Sure.
But what I love is, and I think it might have to do with the curiosity I have with people in general, right? So when I sit down with clients for the first time, I'm typically going into their home, and right away, you know, even if people don't know what their style is, there's little cues. Like you look at, you know, the shoes they're wearing, the clothes they have, just different choices. Maybe there isn't a lot of style in their home, which is why sometimes they're bringing me in, but you can look at the things that they've chosen and get a feel, an idea for what direction these people. Sometimes people know. They say, "This is what I love. This is how this is the feel," and then that's easier. But I find it fun helping that client figure out as well what style they have, and then coming to them with the design. And
I love that. So you almost have to check your bias at the door and just come in with a blank slate and be like, okay, I'm going to kind of follow the client's lead in terms of like you said, like kind of these little clues. And then that's going to kind of paint the picture of perhaps what their style might be. And then you'll direct it. I guess that's kind of the way you
yes,
work,
of course. And I mean, this is their home. It's so satisfying.
A highly emotional space. And
yes. And when you present a project to a client, or when you finish a project and you have made a space that just makes them so happy. I mean, that's what it's all about. Right. And it's not about me living there or anybody else. It's like, how do I create the space for them that's going to be somewhere that is home for them and that they love being in. So
that's amazing. Is there... when you kind of get into the business part, I mean, we're talking about, how you're so good at something because you're passionate about it and it's just something you're extremely good at. But, and these are challenges in my business as well, is like, how do you find the right client for you? Like how do you know? And are you able to kind of walk away? I've had a big challenge myself doing that, but I'm better at it now. Just understanding, what a good fit is with a client relationship.
Yeah.
And does that happen where, you're just kind of not vibing, or you're seeing eye to eye and you just have to kind of walk away, and it's not a good fit?
I think that happened. So it definitely happened earlier in my career, when I didn't have the network of clients that I have now. And unfortunately, when you're first starting out, you don't have the luxury of turning down clients or just understanding that this might not be a good fit. So, it's the grind. You're like, and trying to get through it. But also too, I mean, I think being successful as an entrepreneur as well is having that grit and knowing that not giving up. And, this may not be going great, but I'm going to turn it around. And, how am I going to make this relationship really amazing? And so that I definitely think is something that is really important for people building a business, is checking egos at the door and just,
And possibly saying yes to things that you may not think are a fit. But, sometimes you have to, and it sounds cliche, but you have to go down that road to either make those mistakes or learn those things early on, right?
Yes,
and learn more about yourself, to be like, hey, I know now this is not the direction for me. Next time I won't go down that direction. It's just part of the process, right? Part of the journey.
And just, and understanding people. That's such a big thing. Relationships and understanding and just learning about people every step of the way.
When it comes to communication, are you, I imagine in your line of work, communication, you almost have to over communicate. Because you're aligning with people's visions, values, highly emotional space, that sort of thing. Is that something you've gotten better at, or have you always been a very good communicator, or are those skills that you've developed, do you think?
Yes, certainly. And what I have learned is everyone is very understanding if you communicate. When relationships break down is when you stop the communication and there's been a break in that communication. So, some conversations are hard to have. You've got to tell a client that, there's going to be a delay. Countertops aren't coming in for another 2 weeks because of, and, they're living through. It's a very highly stressful, emotional journey when someone's doing a major renovation in their house. And so, or budget, we've had a problem with the budget. This has come in more. I'm so sorry. Those are hard conversations to have. We've opened up a wall and this is going to be a little bit more money. And so hard conversations, but as long as And I have learned that because there has been times where you're scared to kind of, maybe I can just fix things behind the scene, and which we still do, but communication, it's the most important thing. And just, if you just say it and be honest, and everything always works out.
It's interesting you say that, because I think that, a big MO for entrepreneurs is that we have these egos, right? And it's like, hey, like, I can fix it. In any business, really, it's like if a client or customer, things go wrong or whatever, you're just like, hey, I'm just going to fix it. As opposed to, like you said, just coming clean and saying, here's the situation, and this is what I recommend. This is how we can move forward together. And I think you're right. Is that, like, it may sound counterintuitive, but it really is the best way, to do it. So I think, even myself, as a young entrepreneur, I remember thinking, things went wrong, I'll fix it, or I'll pretend it didn't go wrong, and we'll overcompensate for it. And it just ends up being a disaster in the end,
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
But there are times where definitely, and you have to know those times. There's times where I'm like,
I can fix this.
I'm going to fix this because I know this is going to stress them out so much.
Right.
I'm going to fix this and find a solution and make it happen. And I'll tell them at the end, and we can laugh about it.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. So you almost have to know when to do that.
But that's learning too, right? As you build your business.
I want to talk about, your business, as, we're talking about you and client relationships. So it's like, your business is like a one-to-one model, right? There's you and the client. What are the opportunities for you? And I'm just curious about, like, scaling your business. So, you come at this, you're passionate, you develop this business, it grows and it grows and it grows. It actually grows into a brand. Like, your name is a brand now. It's a business, which
is funny to me.
It is funny, isn't it?
Yes.
Because it's like this weird switch that happens at some point. You're like, wow, like it's a brand.
But
your name.
And it's funny because I never tried to build a brand.
No.
But it was, someone said, this was a few years ago. I said, well, I design for clients. It's not like I have a look. They're like, oh no, a Jessica Davis design.
Interesting.
Space. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize it myself, but just it. And of course, it makes sense that there are, there's similarities in
your style.
So
with that, are you able to, and I have clients myself, and even with my own business, scaling based on some sort of, like, proprietary theme or thing, because really in the end, you're the thing that's proprietary. But if you're able to create a system or even products, have you thought about, like, getting into furniture, and, now you're into the product space, but is there a way to scale? Is there a way to duplicate you or train people under you with your style? And you know what I mean? And I mean,
it is such a good question, Ryan. Yeah. Definitely that has been, I'm like, I can't sell my business if it's just my mind, right? And my what I'm the designs that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And what's my exit strategy? Like, how do I, I just have really relented to the fact that I'm not selling my business, but so that's not something that
that you're thinking about now.
That I'm thinking about now, because I've like, how do I scale? And I've tried bringing people on, other designers, and having them design, but then
they have their own bias, their own style.
Well, exactly, right. And design firms do that, and I think it's great. But then what I found is you start losing. Then you have to design in a brand. Things have to have a process, and then designs look more and more the same because it's all under a brand with all these different designers. You have to keep a continuity, and then you start losing what the client wants, and it's more, let's paint the world Jessica Davis design, which I didn't want to do.
No.
And I did find as well, I started sending junior designers out to meet with clients, and that was fine, and that was great. And some people thought they were getting, well, how do I say it? They weren't getting me, which is what
that's fair.
They wanted to hire me.
Exactly.
And then they're thinking we're not, a good enough job for her to come out, and now we're getting assistants or whatever.
But at some point, and man, it's such an interesting thing, because it's like, not everyone's expecting Martha Stewart to show up at their home if they engage in the Martha Stewart brand or these big brands that started as a person, right? And so you're like,
I did look at their models.
You did, okay?
Yeah, there's Sarah Richardson and how.
Right.
But what happens is they do start branding furniture. Accessories, lighting, but then you start using that in all of your designs. Because if you're designing a room, why are you going to use furniture from another company when you're selling? So the rooms start all looking the same because
that makes sense.
Yeah. So you start limiting yourself to what you're putting in a space.
So it will lack, and that customization just becomes a little bit more just.
Yeah, but it is standard. A great direction to go if
you want to scale.
Really want to scale.
Yeah.
And I think it's incredible what so many designers have done. And
you're just not there yet.
Yeah, I don't know that I would want to do that.
Yeah.
So
Now, as you kind of get a bit older, obviously, as we all do as, entrepreneurs and that sort of thing. Does your style change? Do you become relevant in a different space or irrelevant in another space? As a digital marketer myself, I think about this a lot, because I'm like, at some point, I'm just going to be the old digital marketing guy that, is out of touch with what all the kids are doing on social media. Right. So it's like, do you think about that? I think about it often, but I'm just curious about are there different evolutions of how you may trend or how you may style things, or does it kind of all stay the same?
I find that always since I've been designing, I have always had more. I don't design in a very trendy way. I mean, certainly I go with the trends and I know what's up and coming, but I do try and keep a more timeless feel to my spaces. But nice. I am always traveling and design shows. We're just heading to North Carolina in October for a really big design market, which is
awesome,
fabulous. Yeah. But we're always trying to keep up on the new trends and what's happening and stay current and relevant. And yeah.
Nice. I was just making a note there. Sorry. But the other thing I want to touch on too, and I know I'm just looking at time. I think we've got a little bit more time, but you're a busy woman, so we're not going to keep it too much longer. But I do want to, as a female entrepreneur, I'm really curious about this. Like, you've been in this you've had your business for how long? As Jessica Davis Design? It's been, oh my gosh, 15 years or
closer to 20 now.
Closer to 20. So
it wasn't always yes, but it was sorry, I interrupted you.
No. I think we're like on the same thought wave here. Is that like, as being a female entrepreneur, has that changed for better or worse? Have you seen challenges, or maybe not in your industry? I don't know. Like what has that experience been like for you?
So sorry, what was the question?
If like being a female entrepreneur, what are the challenges, and has that kind of evolved, or has that changed over like the 20 years of owning a business?
With being a female? I'm certainly in a man's world with my
with all the contractors and the workers.
Right, because exactly. Right. And we do design and build. So we do contract projects as well. So I work with fantastic trades, but it definitely female. I've never wanted to ever anytime I thought, oh my gosh, it's because of a woman, it's because I'm a woman, da 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 da. I'm like, no, stop. Don't think that way, because change your perspective, right? And I never wanted to feel like this victim woman in a man's world. And but no, there are shitty things that happen and disrespectful ways you're treated. But it's not just in my industry. It's everywhere, and it's not just women. Yeah. Men and women both go through challenges through entrepreneurship. Of course, there are female things, but I love working with men, and I've had fabulous experiences through my whole career working with men. So certainly.
That's good to hear. Like I don't know, right? As a man, as an entrepreneur, I've just never really explored that or asked that of, female entrepreneurs that I know in the space, right? And I'm curious. So it's good to hear that. And of course, definitely there are always challenges, right? And whoever you are as an entrepreneur,
Let's be honest, there's assholes everywhere, right?
Absolutely there are. Holy
men
shit.
and women that you'll have to deal with. And you just, if you stay positive, you just end up with other positive people in your life. So, so
definitely.
It definitely all works out if you have the right mindset.
Yeah. And how do you balance, our listeners are going to get sick and tired of me talking about this, but I'm obsessed with it. This balance, right? And how do you balance your kind of work life? I mean, you say you travel a lot, so I imagine you get a lot of that too. But how do you stay mentally fit? Do you work out? Do you listen to podcasts? Do you how do you balance that? Because I imagine you could just work 24/7. You're passionate about what you do. Yeah. These projects, I imagine, just totally consume you.
Yes.
How do you step back and give Jess some time,
So I am into fitness, and nice. So kickboxing and
awesome.
And weights. I used to run. I have a hamstring issue for the past few years, so I'm not running quite as much. But that was for years. Running was my meditation and therapy. Good. That was even when the boys were younger, on strollers or in strollers when they were really young, and then bikes, they'd run with me. And so definitely I would say exercise is my way to decompress. And
nice. That's good.
I've never been much of a TV watcher.
Well, you'll definitely be a podcast listener now.
Oh, certainly. Yes.
Speaking of kids, I've got 4, you've got 2. Would you ever encourage your kids to be business owners or entrepreneurs? And, let's say they come to you and say, hey, Mom, I'm passionate about whatever it is, but full well, they're never going to be able to monetize that. Or, would you allow them to kind of go down that path? What advice would you give your kids if they want to be entrepreneurs and business owners?
I would fully support it.
Nice. Good.
Yeah, well, actually, my oldest son, Will, certainly he has an entrepreneurial spirit right from...
There you go.
He was in the 6th grade, and he was walking out the front door, and he was I'm like, what is he carrying? and he's got a 6-pack of Coca-Cola.
Okay.
I'm like, why are you bringing that to school?
Yeah.
He's like, Mom, I've been selling it out of my locker.
Oh,
it's
my
great.
God.
I just charge the kids less than the cafeteria.
Right.
It's perfect. I'm like,
man. Perfect.
Okay, I don't know whether or not to say awesome, honey.
Right.
Or,
do you support that, or you say, yeah.
I'm like, honey, I love where your head's at, but I don't think the school's going to let you do that anymore.
Yeah. But so he was, how old was he? 6?
Oh, so no, he was in the 6th grade.
Oh, he's in the 6th grade. So even at that age, right, he's starting to understand, it's just fascinating to me that I never would have had that mindset when I was his age. It took me well into my adulthood to be like, oh, I think I can be a business owner. Even then, I wasn't quite sure. But you do have these people at a young age being like having that mindset, right?
Yes.
And you wonder, like, is it nature versus nurture? Like what is that, right? I mean, my parents were never business owners. They were government workers. My mom was a teacher. It's like owning your own business. Like that is just like craziness. Like, why would you do that?
You do have to be careful, I think, jumping into it. If I do think that there is a mindset and a personality that makes an entrepreneur. I really do.
Yeah.
My sister, for Nancy, she's so funny. She's like, if I had your life, I would be dead. She's in banking. She loves her routine.
She could never imagine.
Oh my God. She's like, it's like you live on adrenaline. How do you do that? It would kill her, right? And then for me, the 9 to 5 would kill me.
Exactly.
So,
and your sisters. And,
we're sisters.
You think you'd have the same mindset, but you don't at all.
Absolutely not.
That's so fascinating.
It is fascinating.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because where does that come from, right? It's an internal drive that, and we did talk about this earlier. It's like maybe a lot of people have it, but it takes something to unlock it. And perhaps, a lot of people go through life just never unlocking that or having that idea, but not taking that kind of jump to be like, I'm going to follow my passion, create a business of it. And I actually envy a lot of those people because I've made a ton of mistakes through business. I've had businesses that have failed and that sort of thing. And it's like super stressful and it sucks. And sometimes you're like, oh, it'd be nice just to have a 9 to 5,
Right.
But I think more often than not, as you mentioned, you have this drive, you have this fire and determination as a mindset, as a personality that I agree with you that you do need to have a certain personality and certain mindset or else it's just not going to work.
But to your point about failure, I think one thing that people are okay with failure to be a successful entrepreneur. Not okay, but it's like you take it on and you're like, okay, what's next? I'm going to do it right this time. Or even with relationships, I was talking about not giving up on a relationship and making it work. And,
totally.
It just, but also when things don't work out, it doesn't kill you. You kind of shake it off and on you go. Yeah. And that's really, really important as an entrepreneur.
It's good. That's good advice for, if there's young entrepreneurs listening or even if there's older, people in their adult age thinking, I want to start a side gig or whatever that is, it's like, it doesn't have to be perfect out of the gate. You just do it, right? Like a lot of the times you just have to do it to really experience and find out. Sometimes the hard way.
Well, and we started touching on it, but when I started in interior design, it was because of my own home. So it's something that I never intended. So I started doing my own homes when I started purchasing homes when I got to that age. And I loved it. And neighbors, friends, they would see what I would do with my house or my apartments. Even when I had an apartment, I was renting it. And I think the owners of the rental were like, where did she come from? I replaced the floors, countertops, I did it backsplash.
You just couldn't help yourself.
I couldn't because it was worth it to me. That money, I'm like, I know I'm not getting this back, but I'm investing in the time I'm going to be here because I want it to be. It's worth it to me. That's how much I love having a space that I love.
Yeah.
But so when I started my business, it happened organically because people started asking me to help them. And I just helped them because I loved it. I didn't charge anybody. I'm like, absolutely. You want me to help you with
Aren't
your
they
house?
lucky? They got free Jess Davis design stuff
like
in the early...
way at the very beginning. And so I'm so excited helping. And then a friend of theirs would ask and I'd help them. And it just got to the point where I'm like, I don't know this person at all. Like, should I be charging? Maybe. I don't know. How much do I charge? But that's one thing. Like when you love something, you'll do it for free. So my piece of advice when people ask me when they're starting a business, I just say, stop clocking hours. Don't think about the money. just don't think, oh my gosh, I can't do this because I'm not going to make this amount. I think a lot of young people, now I'm going to sound like 90 years old, a lot of young people today.
I agree. I agree.
I think they get into the workforce and have this idea that they deserve to be here and don't understand that like, yes, you have value and know your value and your worth, but also know what it takes to build, right? You have to start. You can't just jump in expecting to make millions of dollars. So I mean, this is how my business built because I loved it and I would have done it for free. That's how much I loved it. So I almost felt guilty charging when I started charging. I didn't they're actually going to pay me? Oh my gosh, I just love it. How can I get paid for this?
Yeah.
I love something so much.
Well, and I think in the creative, and we're both creative people, I think in that creative space, it's like, it's hard to put a tangible value on that. Where is the blueprint of the rate card? There is none, right? I mean, so, and, as creative people, it's like, well, this is it's subjective. So is this person going to pay for my ideas and my vision? But it's subjective. It's not like you buy a pair of Air Jordan shoes, you know what you're getting. And I think that's a really interesting thing, especially like you said, for young people to learn very quickly as well. I mean, you do have this, I have a lot of, students or young people asking to intern and that sort of thing, which I get it. Like they want experience and it's going to be valuable and important to them. But at some point, like, I just feel guilty getting their free work. Like they're worth something, their expertise, where they're from, their backgrounds, that sort of thing. It's funny. I had a young guy come and do some yard work for us at our home, not like just in the summer. And he's like, okay, here's, he's there for 3 hours and he gave us a bill or whatever. And it was really low. And I'm like, well, you're not charging me for you had to drive here, you had to pay for gas, you had to come do an estimate. There's all these he's like, well, no. I'm like, buddy, you're making, $10 an hour. Like you need, like, I need to pay you more because your time is worth money. It's not just coming and doing the work. It's like all the other stuff. Like, I appreciate the drive here and that you have to pay for gas. And so it was a lesson that I kind of gave him a little bit in terms of like, oh yeah, there's all these other expenses that I need to put into the mix. Right.
Right.
And it's his time, it's the logistics, the business side, right? Like you're driving around all over the place. Yeah. Putting out fires left and right in different projects and this and that. So it's like, how do you build in, that kind of revenue to sustain that or to overcompensate for that,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a fine balance.
It is. Yeah.
That stuff out.
Yeah. Well, I think, we've kept quite a bit. I could talk to you for hours and hours. Obviously,
I can't believe that hours come by.
I know it goes fast, eh? But no, I think that I see everything that you're doing online. I think you're a force on social media. I think it's really cool too. You have yourself, and you kind of have this like female entrepreneurship kind of group with some of your friends, right?
Absolutely.
And I love it. I think you guys are kick-ass. You're very powerful. You're supportive of each other. And I love seeing that because we need more female entrepreneurs. I've got a daughter that I would love her to get into the space. I don't know if she ever will, but I think it's important to empower for young females and males, obviously, but for you guys to empower these young females to be like, hey, like you can do it. And I think it's great. I think as myself, I would love to have this kind of like this group of entrepreneurs that support each other, which I just don't have, right? And I see that with you guys, and I get very envious.
You can join us, right?
Maybe I'll join you. Yeah, I'll just be one of the girls, right? Yeah, definitely. Okay.
You don't have to be a girl to be in our gang.
I know I'm doing the male-female thing, but who cares, man? I'll just join the ladies.
Honestly, I don't know how I got so lucky.
Yeah.
That the women in my life, the incredibly strong, beautiful, supportive women. We just...
You guys are killing it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so cool to see, and
I have to pinch myself sometimes.
Yeah.
I really do.
But you guys work your ass off. You do, and you see it, right? And there's luck, but then there's the grit that you talk about.
Oh yeah.
And you could probably thrown in the towel about 100 times by now, but you keep going.
Oh my God.
And you create your own luck. I really believe that, and I'm sure when you're down, your friends pull you up and vice versa. Right. So
the support of the women in my life is everything.
That's awesome.
And men. I have incredible men in my life. And my ex-husband, for instance, I couldn't have done it without him. And thank God. I know not everyone is fortunate enough to have a good relationship with their ex, but
it is
just
important.
Absolutely. And child rearing, raising those boys. Because he's self-employed. He's an entrepreneur as well. So helping each other, raising those kids, and with our really the busyness of our lives.
You need to support yourself and surround yourself with good people. Definitely.
Absolutely. And know that it's okay if someone comes into your life and it's not aligned with that positive aspect or the positive people in your life, that it's okay. Definitely. And be very protective of that.
Yes. Awesome. Well, I love that. I think that's amazing. What are some of the projects you're working on now, and where can we find you, like on socials, or where can people, find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. That's where I post most things.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff on there.
I find it's really for my profession, for interior design in particular, it's a really great way to show your portfolio. So just I'm up at
Jessica Davis or Jessica Davis Design or
Jessica Davis Design and Build.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. And then what are some of the projects you're working on right now? Maybe you can't say, or do you have a lot on the go?
A lot on the go.
You do, eh?
We have some renovations, some new builds, commercial projects.
Amazing.
We have some out-of-town projects as well.
Awesome.
And it's been...
You keep it local in London mostly, though?
I keep it... and I'm fortunate enough that why go out of town when there's so many great projects here in London? And,
awesome. Yeah. Good. So, well, excited to continue following your journey for sure.
Thanks,
I think it's been amazing watching you so far, and I'm excited to see, where you go. And maybe I'll, what do they say, DM you guys in your group and join the girls on.
Oh my God, you are so in.
Or we'll get some more mics and just have all you guys here and just talk about
how fun would
female
that
empowerment,
be?
Right? Yeah, that'd be good.
You name the time, we'll be here. And I love what you're doing. I love this is a really good thing for London, and I think I'm really
I got good people like Alex over here, and surrounding myself with good people too. So I at least know that much, and we'll take this to wherever we need to. But thanks again, Jess, for joining us, and thank
you for having me.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on all the awesome things you're doing and you have upcoming. So awesome.
Thanks,
okay.
Rye.
Yeah. Okay. Be well.
You too.
Okay.
Bye.
There it is. First podcast. Nailed it.
Do you think?
That wasn't hard, eh? No. Another great episode. Thanks for joining us. Please support our podcast. By supporting us, you can go to YouTube, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, go to our website, hustleandgrindpod.com. That way you can go and you can apply to be a guest. Listen to us anywhere that you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple, all the channels. But we really appreciate your support. Keep listening. We have a lot of great episodes and a lot of great guests ready to go. We're going to keep coming hard at you here and digging into the hustle and grind of what it takes to be an entrepreneur and a business owner.